Steve Cooper, Rank Success, and welcome to this further video in a series of short videos to help inform and support you in your aspiration to get promoted to Sergeant, Inspector and Chief Inspector. And I've called this video Booby Trap Questions. Now, what do you think I mean by booby trap questions? Well, well-prepared candidates don't fall into traps, and it's right to think that promotion boards, forces, HR departments, they don't deliberately set booby trap questions on promotion boards because there's no point in doing that. So what do I mean by booby trap questions? Well, I mean questions that well-prepared candidates recognise require a bit of a wider response than what is apparently being asked. And we all like to have things straightforward question. Give me a straightforward question, I'll give you a straightforward answer. Now, wouldn't that be lovely? But promotion board questions are evaluated and they're refined and they're distilled so that they can be as fair as possible, and sometimes they are stunningly simple. So well-prepared candidates recognise a booby trap question, and it can be as simple as, and this is a good one, what's your leadership style? Or it might be, tell us a little bit about your leadership style. Or what leadership style have you adopted? Or what leadership style will you choose to lead your teams as a newly promoted leader? Doesn't really matter how that question comes at you, it's a booby trap question. And why is it a booby trap question, do you think? Well, because a well-prepared candidate will understand that they need to deliver a much broader response around that. So the first thing is they're asking, or the question is asking you for your leadership style. So you could answer that quite directly and say, well, my leadership style is participative, my leadership style is transformative, my leadership style is transformational. It could be any or all of those things. The point being is, the question has asked you for one style. It's asked you about your style. Well, you know as well as I do that in a typical normal policing day, operational policing requires different styles of leadership. So in terms of preparing yourself for a promotion board, it's about doing some work on leadership, on your leadership style, and understanding what it is about you that uses certain characteristics of certain leadership styles. So what do I mean by that? Well, there are lots of different leadership styles. So which leadership styles do you think work well in policing? Who do you know that demonstrates that particular style, and what do you know about it? Now, for some of you might be with me on this, and others maybe, what's he talking about? What is he actually talking about? He's talking in riddles. And this is designed at you if you think I'm talking in riddles here, because you'll get a simple question like that, and I call it a booby trap because most people walk in, and what I mean by booby trap is they'll answer the question and only that question straight down the line. Well, look, my leadership style is essentially transformational. By that I mean I like to empower and support my teams and individuals. I like to get to know them, etc., etc. So and I'm not going to go into all the different leadership styles now. That's for you to do as part of your preparation. But what you've done is essentially responded to the question. Yeah, you've answered the question, and you can't be wrong on that. But there are different leadership styles, and you will be expected to deliver different leadership styles. There is no one leadership style. So the reason I call it a booby trap question is because people ask you, tell us a bit about your leadership style, or what is your leadership style? What's the style of leadership you've adopted? And people will then respond in that one dimension. So get used to thinking about leadership as a kind of broader subject. And it's the people that can't answer these questions. It's the people that haven't done the work that if you like, find it difficult, find it challenging in interviews to respond to relatively simple questions like that. And that is a simple question. So, what is it about your leadership style that works? What other leadership styles do you demonstrate in the workplace, in policing? When do you do that? Where do you do that? Why do you do that? So leadership is a massive area. It's a massive subject, a massive area of research. But your role as a Sergeant Inspector and Chief Inspector is leadership for people, performance and change. And each of those may well require a different style of leadership. So have a think through, have a read through. I mean, obviously you can download my digital toolkits and hit the ground running straight away, because these are the kind of things I cover in the guides, as well as some practice questions in the practice question bank. And there's a 20% discount code, RS Guides 20, which will get you 20% off any of the guides or bundles. So unsurprisingly, this is an area which is covered, and it's an area where you can be verbally proactive, if you like, on this topic. So rather than just respond or answer a question like that, you can be quite verbally proactive around your leadership style, what you believe about leadership, the values that are required in leadership, and you can describe your own characteristics, your own behaviours, give examples and evidence, and that's what they want. That's what they're actually asking for. Look, an example where I've delivered that style of leadership is here. So let's just talk very quickly about a couple of styles. If you were attending a critical incident, or if you're in a firearms scenario, or if you're in a public order scenario, then you're going to be using a more directive leadership style. Command and control, transactional, shut up, do as you're told, jump now. And you might think, well, actually, that sounds, although that sounds a bit, challenging, most people sign up in those scenarios, in those roles, to be led like that at certain times, in certain ways. Now, clearly that style of leadership isn't going to work on a day-to-day basis when you're relating to colleagues and partners. So you may need to demonstrate some other leadership style, participative, supportive, servant leadership. So what you're listening to now, you're listening to some of the different leadership styles that I would expect a well-rounded, well-informed, well-prepared candidate to be able to talk about and share with the board. So nobody delivers one leadership style. So it's a booby trap question, but it's not meant that way. It's meant as a gift of a question around leadership, your role to lead for people, performance and change, and to allow you to expand on that question a little bit by bringing in some other elements and characteristics of leadership and different leadership styles to describe what you do, how you do it, why you do it, to a board, and to share that with them. So have a think about the styles of leadership that you witness in your current role, which styles of leadership work well in policing and which styles don't, and why. Who are the leaders that you admire and respect? Why? What is it they do? What is it about them? So, the information around leadership is all around you. But in terms of preparing for a promotion board, it's got to be developed, it's got to be honed, it's got to be refined and distilled so that you raise your own awareness about your own leadership styles. When are you leading your teams well? When will you lead in a certain way or a certain style, and why? Why is that leadership style called for in that situation? So this is the kind of depth and breadth of preparation I'm talking about, just on the issue of leadership, that's required by well-prepared candidates. And if you look at some of the testimonials on my site, you'll see that people tend to score quite well because they've made the commitment and they've provided and protected enough time for themselves to prepare around this issue. So I have done some previous videos on ethical leadership, so have a look at that one because you've got a link to a free resource there. So the College of Policing have done a document around what makes a good an effective ethical leader. So have a look at that. It talks about different leadership styles in there: democratic leadership, participative leadership, transformational leadership. They're all just words on paper. If you don't understand them, if you don't have an idea about what they are, and you can't kind of bring them in to your conversation, but also understand them in the context of yourself as a candidate, because ultimately you're putting yourself forward to lead a team. If you're a sergeant, a department or an area as a inspector, and broader teams and virtual and force-wide teams as a chief inspector. So have a think about it. There's lots of resources. I mean, leadership is such a vast area. You can find resources, but it's always about context. So I always say think about leadership in context. That's how it's best thought about. and have a look at the digital downloadable guides I do, so to help you with your interview or to help you reflect what evidence you've got and to demonstrate that in terms of examples and when you have practiced or delivered those leadership styles as part of your everyday work. Okay, so that's just a short video. I called it booby trap questions. There are lots of others in as much as they appear to be a simple question, but you have the option to respond much more broadly, much more widely, and to score, if you like, in different aspects, different areas around that. I will be back with another video, and thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon.